ultimately, I think what I am looking for is a purposeful life. I want to know that I have done something to improve kind of the human experience in some way. And I think that's what I really appreciate about the work that I do is that I get to see that every day.
You're listening to What Fuels You, where we deep dive with CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business leaders to learn more about their stories and uncover nuggets of wisdom we can all use. I'm your host, Shauna Swerland, CEO of Fuel Talent, an award-winning recruiting firm based in Seattle. Today's guest on the What Fuels You podcast is Elizabeth Wako. Dr. Wako is president and CEO of Swedish Health Services, where she oversees an organization with more than 1,500 licensed patient beds, 48,000 annual inpatient admissions, and $3.4 billion in revenue. Dr. Wako has over 30 years of experience in the healthcare field. Before stepping into her current role, she worked as a registered nurse in behavioral health and held several key executive positions at Swedish. She received her medical degree from the University of Utah and returned to the University of Washington to complete a medical residency in anesthesia, a fellowship in perioperative medicine, and finally her MBA. Dr. Wako lives in Seattle with her husband and 4 children. Welcome to the podcast. So good to see you.
Oh, so nice to see you also.
Okay, I'm hitting you with some rapid fire. You ready?
I am ready.
Okay, so given it's the new year, I'm curious if there is a habit that you are trying to create.
A habit I'm trying to create. No, actually, there is not a habit I'm trying to
Is there a
create.
habit you're trying to break?
No, maybe maintain. How about that? I've been doing
Okay.
really
Oh,
good at
good.
working. I'm all into my health. You know, as you age, health becomes more important. Well, it should technically be important your whole life. Somebody once used the scenario of if you had to drive one car for the rest of your life, how would you take care of it?
Oh,
So I know,
oh
quite,
God.
I
I just
know,
got chills. What are you doing
I
for your
know.
workouts? I want to hear everything.
Everything, I don't know that it's that exciting, but I try to work out 3 times a week. I work out with a personal trainer. She's awesome. We do it by Zoom. So it's not like it's physically in person, but it helps keep me motivated. And I think the hardest thing is as you get older, different things become important. And it becomes really important to work on muscle, strength building, balance, kind of lateral movements. And it's nice to have somebody who knows what they're doing, telling me what to do. And it's also nice because you get that commitment of knowing that you have to meet somebody. And
Yeah, the
if I knew
accountability.
that accountability is huge. And if I know I have to meet somebody, it makes me show up and I rarely cancel anything if I've committed it to it. And so I know that since I've committed to it, I'm not going to change my mind and not show up. So it's made me
That's the habit you're going to
very
try
good.
to maintain. I love
I'm
it.
going to maintain it.
So, if you were going to be famous, more famous than you are as Dr. Wako, as a athlete, an artist, a rock star, a poet, an author, like if you had to be famous for some sort of skill, what would
What
it
would it
be?
be? That is a great question that I have never thought of before. So this is the raw answer. I haven't fully analyzed it. Um, I would love to be a singer.
It's so
I think
weird
I
as
would
you
have.
said that. I was like, she's going to say singer because, first of all, I love your voice. I love the sound of your voice. For some reason, I find it very uplifting, but also soothing. There's something it's like, I love your voice. I've never told you that, but I've thought it. Um, and then do you sing?
No,
Or you
I
just like
sang
would sing?
once.
Can you hold a tune?
Couldn't if it came in a bucket. That being said, I do like a little Christmas thing for the whole hospital. all of the leaders in the hospital. We have a regular meeting. And so every year at Christmas, I do something where I surprise them with something. And sometimes it's a game, sometimes it's artistic. And I did a song, like a duet. Oh, this was horrible with with my chief medical officer. So
Wow.
we did it together. Christmas song.
Do you have it on
Um,
video?
I actually do, but
Oh,
I'm the
you
only
have to
one who
send
has
it
the
to me.
video. I'm
Oh,
literally
dude,
the
you
only
gotta
one who
send
has
it
the
to me.
video. There's no way I'm sending it to you. That being said, um, so I rewrote the lyrics to "Baby It's Cold Outside." And so we did this duet. And for my daughters take singing lessons. And so for a month, maybe a month and a half ahead of time, Chris, my chief medical officer, and I literally went and got singing lessons to be able to do it. I know it was crazy. It literally was crazy. I don't know why I did it. Um,
I think it's the coolest thing ever. My friend and I just had coffee this morning. She was telling me she's doing these like vision boards with her team. And I'm like, that's such a good idea. I feel like leaders, we can just learn from each other. And this is a good one. I'm like, next year I need to kick my holiday party to the next level.
take it to the next level.
I actually have, I was joking with my team because we have a lot of musicians. And I'm like, we could put together a band. And like, that would be so funny if everybody just surprised people. That's such a good idea.
Definitely do it. It was
I love
worth
it.
it.
So you'd
But
be a singer. Are we talking
like opera,
um, no, I don't really picture that. That was not what I was picturing. I was picturing you playing the piano and being kind of like soulful,
jazzy,
like jet,
no,
not necessarily
opera.
like no, more like an Adele meets Nora Jones meets like Alicia Keys, like chill.
Okay, I could do that. It's the high notes that I like. I just really love music.
Oh,
It's very
like
soothing.
Mariah,
Oh yeah, like Mariah. I
Whitney.
really can't do. Let's remember, I cannot do any of this. This is fantasy.
All right, well, we're fantasizing. That's what this is for. That's so
This is all
funny.
about fantasy.
Okay, switching gears is like if you had to just be like, this is my not uniform because you have to wear a uniform for work sometimes, I'm guessing as a doctor, but more like your clothing uniform for fashion, your go-to, like I am confident and could be in this all day, every day. What would it be? Is it jeans and a sweater? Is it like dressy, dressy? Is it sweats? Is it
Mm.
flip-flops and shorts?
That is so funny. Okay, but every day well, actually,
Not
if you
work, not
really
work.
want to
Just
know,
you and you're confident, like this is me,
you're
my most authentic.
in a dress.
In a dress.
In a dress. I love wearing dresses.
Yeah, I love wearing dresses too. Well, dresses are like the best kept secret
Mhm.
that people don't talk about because it's just one item. You don't have to think so much.
I think you just called it right there. My closet is pretty much all dresses for that reason. You just pull one up and you put it on, and they can, I love a flowy dress. I love a silk dress.
Okay.
Um,
I'm gonna start sending you stuff.
Comfortable.
I
Yeah,
love
please
sending
do.
my friends fashion stuff. It's just the best because you've got great taste and yeah, we got to give a shout out to fashion. It's like it's something that you
Different.
can definitely share with a friend that is I don't know, it's like an artistic expression that we don't necessarily get to do at work. So it's
And
fun.
it really shows your personality
Yeah. You've got
and
great taste.
maybe your personality for the day too.
Sometimes I'm a little boring, but I like to call it classic.
Classic Chanel.
Okay, classic Chanel. So, is there a dream place if you could go anywhere that you would want to go golf? Is there a golf course that you're like, I want to go there?
Okay, so I'm not sophisticated enough about golf to maybe throw out a place in the world, but I do love Carmel by the Sea and Pebble Beach. I mean,
Oh,
I
I've
just
never been
love
to
that
Pebble
ocean. It
Beach.
is just so beautiful. It is so beautiful. So yeah, if I had to go golf, then and I don't even know how much of it is actually on the water. I'm trying to remember. I think some of it is. I would go
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And I know we talked about this before the holidays that you love to throw dinner parties, and I know you've talked about it publicly also. Is there a like famous dish that is like, oh, this is what people think of when they think of me and my cooking, or my kids think of, or like a
I would
recipe in the family, something?
a famous dish. Okay, so I would say this is not what I make for a dinner party, but when the kids probably think of me cooking, they probably think of me cooking Ethiopian food, and I cook Ethiopian food every Christmas Eve. But generally, I don't just make it ad hoc. It takes a fair amount of work.
Yeah. Okay, what impresses you?
People and their stories. People's lives impress me. Like when you, everybody, like there's nobody that I've met that hasn't been able to just surprise me or tell me something amazing about something that happened in our lives. Our lives are so long and so complex, and the human interaction is so beautiful that I can always be impressed about somebody's story.
Yeah, I love that. I try to kind of imprint that into my kids, and they're all kind of people, but
Hmm.
just the idea that like stay curious
Hmm.
because it's so true, you just never know. And then like the onion part of people, just like peeling back the
Yeah.
layers. I agree. I love it. Okay, how many cups of coffee are we drinking a day these days?
I drink decaf, first of all, because
Wow.
well, I started to get arrhythmias. That was kind of the,
Okay.
but I love the taste of coffee. Like I love
Me
coffee, like the
too.
smell of it, the feel
Me
of it in my
too.
hand, just hugging the cup, the automatic like
What
peace.
do you put in it?
Nothing.
Oh, God. Do you drink Ethiopian
Straight.
coffee?
Oh my, Ethiopian coffee is the best.
It's too
Now,
strong for me, but like I know people love it.
yeah, it is incredibly strong. I need a chaser like that, but
Yeah.
it is good. And Ethiopian coffee in Ethiopia is really good because the water,
So what
it's
do you
mineralized
drink
water.
now? Like what did you drink this morning? You drank a decaf what?
Nespresso, a
Oh,
decaf
Nespresso.
Nespresso. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I drink, okay, so back to your original question, which was how many cups am I drinking a day? Oh, probably three, maybe
Yeah.
four.
Well, they're decaf. So that doesn't,
I
it,
know.
it counts, but it doesn't really count.
Doesn't really count.
Okay, so you spoke about Ethiopia. I know that your family immigrated here
Hmm.
when you were just a baby, like a few months old. And what was what were they doing in Ethiopia and what brought them here?
So my mom was a nurse. My dad wanted to be a preacher. So he came to America to go to the seminary, so to get a master's in theology. And then the plan was he'd go back to Ethiopia and he'd be a preacher. The challenge was that when they came, got stuck in America, and he didn't want to be a preacher in America. So he, thinking that it was going to be short lived, it wasn't. He ended up getting a few masters and then a PhD, and then became a professor. And we moved a fair amount because, if you don't have family, it's a lot easier to move, and it's a lot easier to move up in your career if you move, especially as a professor. So he moved a fair amount for tenure, which he ultimately got in Walla Walla.
Yeah, and so how many homes did you live in throughout like 0
Throughout
to
this.
18?
Okay, I'm counting.
Or like where? Where are we talking?
Okay,
You've
so
told me this before, but I don't
Michigan,
remember. Michigan
Michigan, three places in Michigan, Nebraska, two in Nebraska, Indiana, one, and then we went from Indiana to Washington. So Walla Walla
Yeah.
is so
And
seven.
what did the moving around teach you as far as where you liked the most, like where you felt the most kind of comfortable? Um, I guess what role race plays in our country, like in those areas, and then also just what age you felt the most like, I'm like me. I feel good.
Oh,
Those are
that's
big three
interesting.
questions.
Yeah, there's a lot
Like
in there.
all rolled into
Uh,
one. There's a lot. Sorry.
okay.
My brain, I've
Um,
got the ADD going. My
I
brain goes
know.
all over.
It's okay. It makes for an interesting conversation. Okay, so the Midwest is great, I would say. I think it's underappreciated. People are very nice. They have no accent in the Midwest, and that is
Well,
where
what does that even mean? East
um,
Coast people would think that I think Midwest people have an accent.
I think the purest English is in the Midwest.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Now, if you kind of that, and this is my opinion. I don't know that I've heard that anywhere, but in my mind, I think of like America is the Midwest. I don't think of America as being like coastal, I guess. Um, I think that those of us on the coast think we are America, but I do think
Yeah.
that the reality is it kind of exists in the middle. So
Yeah.
the middle was Nebraska, and that was also, I guess, probably the middle. So junior high and some of high school. And so I guess I should mention that I left my senior year in Indiana to be a foreign exchange student, and I
How cool
moved
is
to
that?
Belgium. Yeah.
How'd
So,
you choose Belgium?
well, Belgium chose me. I was taking French as my foreign language, and to go to France, I don't know, I think you maybe had to have 3 years or something, and I had 2 years. There was some uh, requirement. And Belgium is French speaking, Flemish also, Dutch. But there's a French speaking part. And so I went there because of that, because I already knew some of the language, so it wouldn't be as bad. That being said, I don't really know that it makes any difference. I honestly think you could go anywhere as a
Yeah.
teenager and probably completely pick up the language of the country you're in, probably in 2 months, a month.
Yeah. Well, going all over the place. So you have siblings. I know you
Hmm.
have how many kids are in the family?
There are four of us total. Um, I have an older sister, a younger brother, and then a younger sister that my parents adopted when I was already outside of the house.
Yeah. So you've got four kids. And so I'm guessing as a family moving all over, being immigrants, your parents had probably some core values, clearly valued education, I'm guessing, your dad and
Yes.
wellness with your mom. Who are you more like?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Who am I more like? I'm
Or like what did
probably,
you get from each of them, I guess?
I think I'm in the middle of both of them, and maybe veering a little bit towards my mom. My dad is quite extroverted. I don't think I'm as extroverted as he is. Oh, or animated. My siblings, my older sister and my brother are extroverted, like him. So education, probably my drive, grit, determination. I would say I got that from my dad. Um, my mom is brilliant. She's just smart. I'm not as smart as she is, but I would say I got some of my intelligence from her. How about that?
Yeah, and sounds like
Um,
she was also just such a crazy, well-respected nurse with an
mhm.
incredible reputation, took her job
Yes.
very seriously. Um,
Yes.
is that what kind of led you to think about going into healthcare? I know that you felt like you had to figure it out early. Um, what led
Yes.
to kind of thinking I want to go into nursing?
Well, that's all my mom. And you know, we we were still immigrants. Like even though I was raised completely in America and uh, I sound certainly American and have very American mannerisms. You know, if your parents are immigrants, you still carry that with you. And for my parents, I think it was really important for them to know that we were going into a career where we would be able to, be secure, right? Have a job, be employed. And the thing about nursing is that, if you're a nurse, you will always have a career. You will always be financially stable. You will always be able to take care of yourself. And I think, when you have a daughter, that's something that you think about. So my parents did well in America because of my mom. 'Cause my dad is going to school a majority of the time that I was young. And the reason why he was able to go to school and become successful in his career is because my mom was a nurse and she was working the whole time. So when she came to America, we came on a green card. We came on a green card because she was a nurse and America needed nurses. So the fact that you're able to have somebody who is able to make more than a living wage in your family, I think it changes the trajectory of your family. So I think they saw that in nursing and
Hmm.
encouraged my sister and I to both go into nursing. My brother is 5 years behind us.
And is it so that your sister and you are both in healthcare? And what about the other siblings?
My brother is in well, technology. So uh, I say
Yeah.
computers because I'm, you know, of that
It
age that
covers
computers
it. Yeah.
covers it all.
Yeah.
Yes.
My friends who don't aren't like corporate, they're like more creative, will be like, you're in mergers and acquisitions. I'm like, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? They're like, that does not cover all of it. I'm like, no, I'm in recruiting.
Well
It's
said.
funny. You're like
Mergers and
computers.
acquisitions,
I know, that's so funny.
computers.
So how have you been able to
Okay,
maintain
data analytics. I
friendships?
can be
Data
better than that.
analytics.
Data analytics,
Well,
web
data analytics
analytics.
is brilliant. I mean, we need
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And particularly website analytics. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Oh, wow. Okay, that makes sense. So, have you been able to maintain relationships? I mean, you and I are from the era that there was not social media growing up. Imagine
Hmm.
if there had been, and you've got your Indiana friends and your Belgian friends and your friends in Walla Walla, all over. Have you maintained any friendships from, high school, pre-college days?
No,
Yeah, it's hard to do.
not
I mean,
really.
it's
It's
so
very
hard to do.
hard. Yeah. And our
Yeah.
kids don't understand how difficult it is. Like you move and you move. There is no
Yeah.
texting, there's no maintaining a conversation. People's phone number changes all the time. Um,
Yes.
so no, not really. I
Yeah.
do have some people that I still think about, two actually. And then
But you could probably find him on Facebook. You could be like the person who just
yeah,
appears out of the blue and like, hey,
except I'm not on Facebook.
you're not on Facebook. Good
But you're
girl.
right.
Love it. Yeah.
I
So you're
could.
in Walla Walla then for high school and
No, I'm already done with high school. I come to Walla Walla,
oh,
and
that's right.
I,
That's right. That's
yeah,
right. Because you did
yeah,
Belgium and
yeah.
yes, you
I
got
went to
all over.
Belgium. We actually were living in Indiana, and I went to Belgium, and then when I moved back, we were in Walla Walla. So,
Oh, you moved back. Okay.
yeah,
So
I moved back
when you're thinking about
thinking that.
college, your parents had a plan for you as far
Mhm.
as like find something. But was there anyone guiding you on like which schools to, I mean, nowadays think about our parenting and then your parenting that you got on this subject, right? There's no tutors, there's no like advisors. Um, how did you make the choice that you made and was it the right one for you?
Okay, so when I came back, I was coming back, and remember, I was a foreign exchange student. So I came back, and I was a foreign exchange student my senior year. Um, So I came back and, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to go to college. I mean, I always assumed I was going to go to college, but I don't know that I ever really thought about, I think the steps that you had to do to get there. I mean, it seemed relatively straightforward, right? You apply, you get in. I was a good student, so I wasn't worried about it. But so I came back and I was thinking we were living in Indiana and I came back and now we're living in Washington. And I was talking about nursing school. So I decided to go to Walla Walla Community College to the nursing program. It's an ADN program, so Associate's Degree in Nursing, and it's a 2 year program. So for me, I don't know, sometimes it's speed to execution, right? And I knew that it was a short program and I could do it and I would be like independent and free at the end of it.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, that's why I went
that
there. It
was the
was a great
plan.
program. That was the plan.
Yeah. But I know you also got a degree in, is this true? Zoology and classics? Is this true?
It's totally true. So then,
That
while
seems so random. I didn't know that
isn't
about
it?
you. And I was like, wait, what?
It is random. It sounds random, but it actually makes sense.
Okay, good.
So I am in Walla Walla and, you know, doing nursing school. You got to do the prereqs and then you do the 2 years of nursing school. And my sister, who, was just a year older than me, she has always been sick. She had been sick from the time she was 12 on, kind of very nondescript kind of symptoms. And my mom, took her to many doctors. And my mom at this point is an ICU nurse, so she's an excellent advocate. And was never able to get a diagnosis for what was going on with my sister. So we moved to Walla Walla, and obviously the first thing my sister does is establish some sort of primary care. She goes to see a family medicine doc, and the family medicine doc kind of listens to her share the story of, the last 6 years of her life. And the family medicine doc looks at her and she says, I think I know what's wrong with you. And she diagnoses her with Cushing's disease. And so the thing about Cushing's disease is it's a tumor on your brain, in your brain, that secretes steroids. And the steroids, the constant steroid production, is what kind of creates the symptoms. And part of the symptoms is being obese, right, from the steroids. And so every time she would go see a doctor, the doctors would say that her symptoms were because she was overweight. So,
It was like the reverse.
yeah, it was totally the reverse. They kind of, they missed the tumor and then misdiagnosed her. So, kind of going through that with my sister is what made me decide that I wanted to go to medical school. So, while I was in nursing school, I made the decision to go to medical school. So, that is why when I finished my nursing program, I moved to Seattle. And in Seattle, if you went to the University of Washington, and if you were pre-med, which I was, one of the degrees you could get was a degree in zoology, which is basically anatomy and physiology. So it kind of makes sense that I would end up in zoology. So as for the classics part of it, that was just, I mean, I loved Greek and Roman literature. I loved reading. That was just me doing something because I love it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Very cool. So is your sister like, is it treatable? Like, is she well?
Yes. So she went on to have surgery. She had the tumor removed. She did well for a period of time, and then she developed lupus. So she has lupus now.
Oh man.
I know you wonder if there's some relationship, but there's our bodies are so complex, and there's many
So
things that we don't
complex.
know. Yeah. So um,
So complex.
I would not say she is well. Most people don't get the lupus story because they never actually ask if she's well now, but you asked because she's well now. What?
Yeah.
So she's
So
not. She
she's
has lupus.
yeah. Oh, that's hard. So, okay, so you make these decisions, and are there people, are there teachers or guides or mentors at this point in your life kind of guiding you towards where to look at medical school or what type of medicine to pursue?
It's fascinating, but not really. I kind of had a goal and I was really directed towards that goal. Yeah,
What
I
was the goal at the
worked,
time?
well, the goal was just to get into medical school. Like
Yeah.
my 5-year plan was that I would get an undergrad, I would apply, and then I would get into medical school. Um, but kind of outside of that, not very specific. And that my work, so my specialty in nursing. So remember, I graduated as a nurse. So of course I would then work as a nurse, was mental health. Psychiatric nursing. So I worked in involuntary psychiatric medicine for patients who are involuntarily detained. And so,
I can't imagine the stories. Like, do people ask you all the time in your life that find out that you worked in psychiatric? Like, for some reason, my brain goes right to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I'm sure, like,
Mhm.
but just like, what, I can't even like imagine that job. And then also, some people would just stop there and be like, okay, this is cool. I'm like a nurse. It's prestigious. You're probably incredible
Mhm.
at it. Um, like what made you decide to pursue becoming a doctor?
So I didn't say this. I think because when I looked at the trajectory of my sister's disease, the only thing that broke it was the physician that sat down and listened to her.
Yeah.
And
So you're like, I want to do that for
I
others.
want to do that. Like,
Yeah, that makes
yes.
sense. Yeah.
And so,
Any crazy cool stories from from the psychiatric hospital?
Not really.
You probably can't get
Okay,
into them.
this isn't crazy and cool, but this is reality. This is what I learned. I learned that uh, mental illness is something that lives with everybody. I think that when you and granted, I was working on one end of the spectrum, but mental health is a spectrum. And so I think that is where I learned that we all live on the spectrum. And where you are today is not necessarily where you are tomorrow, and it's not necessarily where you are a year from now. And it also, I think, gave me the language and the ability to accept people where they are uh, today or in the moment and not hide it. Like a country does a really, I think, poor job of accepting the concept of mental health and what that is in reality. And I don't think we realize enough uh, that we are all experiencing mental health. It might be good, it might be bad, but we're all experiencing it. So
Do we
that's what
have a
I learned.
relationship with where, yeah, with our, the way that we go through life and the way that we see the world and the way that we experience our day to day, for sure. Okay, so you go to med school, University of Utah. How'd you choose that school again?
That's a great question. How did I choose that school? Well, um, I got married to my husband, who is from Montana. And obviously, we would be going to medical school together. So I looked at all the places I got in and I said, where do you want to live? And he wanted to kind of stay in the Rocky Mountain region. So, and he loved the idea of Utah. And I think he loved it because what did he say? He said he wanted to uh, uh, ski on the snow ski and golf and water ski in the same day. And so
Oh,
he felt
love that.
like you could do
Done
that in
and
Utah.
done.
I know.
How
So,
did you meet him?
oh my gosh, we met at Belltown Billiards. Do you
Oh, I
remember
knew
Belltown
that.
Billiards?
I
Yeah.
remember you telling me that story. Yes, I
Yeah.
do remember Belltown Billiards. Love
Yes,
it.
that's where we met.
And so how does residency work? Like I have several friends who are doctors, but I've never understood how. I know you do rotation, but
Mm-hmm.
you did residency in anesthesia.
Mm-hmm.
How does that like you get to pick what you do or you rotate and then you kind of double down on something?
Okay, so as a medical student, you rotate through different specialties. And then when you've completed your 4 years, you apply to a residency program. The thing about anesthesia is it's not it's not one that you see. It's not a standard rotation. You can do a rotation, but it's not a standard rotation. But you see it when you go in the operating room because obviously there would be an anesthesiologist there. So initially, I wanted to do surgery, or I guess I thought I wanted to do surgery. And I loved being in the operating room. I loved the environment, taking, I think that one on one patient interaction is pretty cool. But deciding to maybe not do surgery and then looking around as to what else is there that could kind of keep me in that environment is really what led me to anesthesia. But anesthesia is awesome. Like, you know, you should, if you are thinking about becoming a physician or you are a medical student, you should definitely take some time and consider anesthesia. It is, you get to put all your time, energy, and effort into one person. Like, when does that ever happen? It's demanding, kind of mentally demanding, and
It's like a
if you're
weird,
kind of a
interesting blend of pressure and also
yeah,
stable because you're
yeah,
like, you're doing the same thing, you know what you're doing. And it's such an important, I always take that as the most important person that I'm seeing that day. I'm like, where's the anesthesiologist? As anesthesiologist, I need to meet that person. I don't know who told me that, but I'm sure my parents have drilled that into me. Like, who's going to be doing the anesthesia? And I
it's
think
true.
that's crucial. But then there are, of course, that's also the most important because it's the most important. And so
Yeah,
if it goes the wrong direction, that's also got to be just like the most intense kind of adrenaline thing
that's true.
ever, like in the operating room.
What is it? It's 99% boredom, 1% sheer terror being an
Yeah.
anesthesiologist because, but the thing about being anesthesia or being an anesthesiologist or delivering anesthesia is that, it's rarely, this is what I've learned, it's rarely one thing that changes the trajectory of a patient's care. It's multiple mistakes. So people think that one thing, and I don't even want to say mistakes because it's not really a mistake. It's a choice, like an option you have of which neither one is abundantly clear. But it's taking the wrong turn a few times before you get yourself in trouble. So there is time to autocorrect. Um, as you're trying to problem solve what is going on with a patient because it's not readily apparent. But it is,
Yeah.
but a patient can sometimes just, change directions and you don't even necessarily see it coming. Or you can run into complications. The patient can start bleeding and
Oh,
start to change a
it
dynamic.
all gives me such, talk about anxiety. It gives me so much. I don't have the makeup for of your background. And you also worked at
Yeah,
Harborview, which is like for people who are not in Seattle, that's like the trauma kind of that's where you go when you're in like intense, like crazy, that's the chaos of all chaos. Like
it is.
that's adrenaline right there.
And it's so much fun.
I
But it
can
is
only imagine.
adrenaline.
Yeah.
Trauma is its own specialty. Because you very much have to be on your game 24/7. But I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah.
I've
So
loved all my jobs.
well, you're just a positive person. I don't think I've ever heard, you're just not you really aren't a complainer and you're not a victim. You're very much like go forward type of person and like lemonade out of lemons person. I've never heard you be anything but positive. So I'm not surprised to hear you say they're all amazing. But so, okay, did you need to go back and get an MBA? Was there a point in your career where you said this is a necessity to go to the next level? And is it a choice where you're like, I'm either going to take a right or a left, like I'm saying on this path or that path, or can you be kind of a blend without an MBA? Like at what point in their career? This is where I'm confused in your background a little bit. Like,
Okay, let me help. I'm strumming along as an anesthesiologist. I did a fellowship in pre-op medicine. So that's kind of everything you have to do to be optimized for surgery. So there are things you
mm,
can do to optimize yourself for surgery. So that was my specialty. So I ran a pre-op clinic. So I was a medical director. I was a medical director at Harborview and then a medical director at Swedish, which, if you are not from Seattle, Swedish is a pretty large hospital system in Seattle, downtown. It's a tertiary quaternary hospital, so very complex care. And I worked as an anesthesiologist and I revamped their preoperative clinic. And in that role, I got to know a fair amount of people in the hospital. And our chief medical officer, so for the First Hill campus, the flagship campus, had moved on to a new role. He actually became the CEO of Swedish Ballard. And so when he left that role became open, and chief medical officers tend to be kind of later in their career, very much kind of managing the medical staff
so
and
is it a
keeping the
player
medical staff
coach job
engaged.
or is it just a coach job?
It's a, they can be both. You can be
Okay.
100% coach, or you can be a player coach. Now, in this role, it was a bit of a player coach. It wasn't 100% the CMO role.
Management. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't 100%. And so I still worked in the ORs and ran the pre-op clinic. So when he left, he's the one who actually said to me, "Hey, Elizabeth, I think you should consider applying for this role. And I had thought, oh, this is a great job and maybe something I could consider in about, I don't know, 5 more years, 10 more years. I felt like I was
That's
still
they
somewhat
do
early.
say that's very female, right? That you feel like you need to be, is it because you weren't wanting it or you didn't feel qualified?
I think I didn't feel qualified.
Yes.
And, you know, it, to give me some credit, because I am always willing to go for something. Historically, that had not been the case. And I think the chief medical officer role was changing probably in the time that I was moving into it and becoming maybe a bit more operational. Um, so I think the role itself was evolving, and I was lucky in the sense that the hospital was also evolving, and so they, considered me for the role. I interviewed, I got the role, and so now I'm a player coach, as you put it, and I've been in the role, I don't know, maybe 6 months, and I realize a few things. Number one, this kind of administrative level is different than the level that I have been operating on in the hospital. And when I look at the decisions that are being made for the care that we deliver, those decisions are really being made by the operational leaders. Uh, I mean, I'm guiding those decisions. They're asking my opinion, but I don't actually get to make the decision.
Mm.
And so I kind of wanted to be the decision maker. And so to be the decision maker, I would have to go back and get an MBA. Like, is it 100%? No, but it definitely stacks the cards in your favor if you kind of accomplish everything that one would want you to have under your belt moving into that role. And then, as the operator, obviously you would eventually want to become the CEO. And to be the CEO, obviously the board hires you. And I would think that a board would look favorably upon a physician who had an MBA as opposed to ones that did not have an MBA. If you're thinking about this is the
Hmm.
person who's going to be directing your entire operation. So those are kind of the reasons that I decided to go back and get the MBA.
So, and you didn't just get any MBA, you got an MBA at UW, very competitive program.
I did the executive MBA program. There is, I think, a weekly option and a monthly option. I did the monthly option, and I continued to work full time while I was doing that
That's incredible with your 4 kids.
with my 4 kids.
Yes.
I know.
Okay. I'm blown away by that. Like, is there some sort of ninja skill in executive functioning slash time management?
Oh, yeah, there is. The ninja skill is do not seek perfection. I think if you seek perfection, you will fail. And so during that time is probably where I developed my 80% rule, which is you just need to get 80% of what you want. If you get 80% of what you want, it is enough. So that saved me because my tendency is to go for 100%. Like I want
Mm.
110%,
But
not
your
just
80 might be
100%.
somebody else's 100.
Oh, I don't know. My 80 is actually somebody else's 60. So maybe go for your 60%. You have to good enough. You really have to go for good enough. It is very hard when
Yeah.
you're always trying to go for exceptional.
But don't you think that you've already got slightly, you're the um first female, right, in your role as CEO. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
And obviously on top of that, woman of color. So like you're 80, a lot of women say they have to feel like they show up with like 150 to overcompensate for the fact that there's already disparity there. Um, did you feel like, if I can perform but also focus on my relationships, like how do you, I guess, make up for the scrutiny that some women feel that they're kind of held to a different standard?
Okay, that's very true. Okay, let me clarify. My 80% is I'm only looking for people to give me 80%.
Okie dokie. Because
because
I'm like,
yeah,
I said, that's why I said your 80 is probably someone else's 100, because I see you doing 100
yeah,
plus, plus, plus.
yeah.
And I'm like, so I'm guessing that your idea like, is not accurate of your, because I'm like,
Yes.
you're kind of hardcore.
Okay, so you're right. I
So
am hardcore. So I am doing a lot. But my challenge, at least my personal challenge, I imagine other people's challenges too, is that your your kind of expectation for everything else in your life is that it's going to deliver at 100%. Okay, my children are going to, be at 100%. I'm going to be able to help them, achieve whatever goal they have, whether it's sports, whether it's academics,
yeah,
whatever. I'm gonna give 100% of myself and make sure that that happens. I'm gonna make sure that they're fed the best food,
yes,
that
you
the
need to
house is gonna
lower
be
your, yes,
clean,
okay, this all makes
that
sense.
yes. So it's all
Yes,
of that in your life where you're looking for
I would
100%. It
say the
just
same
adds
thing.
stress.
I would say the same thing. Because if um, I also feel like it's helpful if you are kind of working and you're a mom, because you can kind of just throw your hands in the air and say, well, I can't be like, there's no way I can be 150% as a mom.
Hmm.
I have
Hmm.
to kind of remind myself that I'm hopefully setting an example for the kids and
Hmm.
hopefully modeling hard work. But there's no way I'm going to be the mom with like the fresh, made breakfast, or you probably are, but I'm not like the perfect breakfast every morning. And they're, exactly what they want. And I'm going to throw the birthday party with all the, like, I think women put a lot of pressure on themselves for that stuff. So that makes sense that you're like, that totally makes sense to me. Back on the business thing for 2 seconds. So you said that you felt like to get to this next level and where the board hires you as a CEO, that there's an expectation that you would have certain qualifications like an MBA to go to that next level as an operator. Do you feel that it goes in the reverse in healthcare, that somebody who's actually been a physician and had hands-on experience doing the actual job makes a better team member and leader in healthcare?
Absolutely. I think it's a team. It's definitely a team sport. Everybody has something different to bring to the table. The clinicians have a significant role because in the end, our business is taking care of people, and you have to live at the sharp end and take care of somebody to understand the challenges and the privileges that come with that. Because in the end, you're you don't want to disrupt that encounter for both the physician, because it's part of your mental health as a physician, right? And for the patient, because that is what the patient needs to get well. That is what you need for wellness. And it's very fragile and very easy to disrupt. I think there are very few relationships that are equivalent to a physician patient relationship. I actually cannot think of any except for maybe clergy, I
Yeah.
think is the
So if
most
you're putting, if
similar.
you needed to hire somebody on the executive team, would it be a necessity for all of the roles that they have not just healthcare experience, but that they've been a doctor, they've been a nurse, that they've actually had a relationship with a patient?
Not 100%. Because it's very difficult to find, and you need a well-rounded team with different skill sets.
Yeah.
What I So I don't look for that. What I do look for is somebody who um, has a story, like they have a passion, they have a commitment. There's a reason why they're in healthcare, and they're going to pick healthcare over whatever. Like that's what I
Data
think you need more
analytics.
than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, over
Yeah.
data analytics. You just have to feel passionate about people, caring for people, about human suffering.
Yeah. I can understand that. And so your experience as a nurse and physician, I'm guessing, has influenced not just your ability to lead, but your approach as a CEO. Um, how would you say that it's kind of shown up as far as your attributes?
I think it gives me absolutely a leg up. There's nothing like having worked as a nurse that made me a better physician, So it only makes sense that working as both a nurse and a physician helps you be a better leader, a leader in healthcare. And it's not even just that. I think it's your life and it's your life experiences, because in the end, you know, the decisions that I make are incredibly complex and ambiguous and don't necessarily have clear data or clear answers. And so you have to rely on your knowledge. You have to rely on your experiences. You have to rely on your heart. And I think that those are areas that I feel like I have incredible strength in. So I, believe in the decisions that I make, and hopefully my team believes in those also.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because when I think of it, I'm picturing you in a one-to-one that you're coming back to the patient every time.
Mhm.
But the reality is you're operating at such a crazy level. I mean, I downloaded and cheated, and I've got your kind of facts and figures on the business from 2023. But I mean, even just the 3.4 billion in revenue. I mean, just the sheer level of what you're dealing with. And when you're talking about operating like a business and that you're coming back to the day-to-day like experience that the patients are having. Um, I'm sure that that just serves you because you can kind of go big and then you have to just break it down to, what that looks like. But um, is this true? 13,554 employees. This is from 2023.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. Like you're so humble and approachable and relatable and but like you're the big boss. It's so nuts. You're badass. It's incredible. And also you've done this through COVID. I mean, the challenges in that industry, I felt so privileged to not be in the thick of it and in you know, just dealing with this crisis that our world went through. And you were right in the thick of it, and it's not ended because there's now continued supply chain issues and cost issues and lack of nurses, lack of skilled labor, the cost of labor in Seattle. It all is so intense and you're managing it just so gracefully. Like, do people have a sense of like what it is that you're challenged by or that keeps you up at night? Because you have to be the kind of calm in the storm. And, until I got to know you better, I don't think I realized the challenges so much of your industry and this overall, like I read about it like everyone else, but I think that people don't understand necessarily like the actual challenges of your industry. So I'm curious, like what keeps you up at night and who do you turn to? Because you have to perform.
All right. So well said. I love that you did that research, Shana. Nice work. It is incredibly complex. You are right. Many people do not understand our healthcare system. They don't understand how it works financially, operationally, and how care gets to them. They don't understand how it's paid for. I think many people only see their small component of it. And it is an incredibly complex mm, system that is somewhat fragmented and built in pieces. So it's not like we came in as a country and created a plan that would provide healthcare for everybody. It's very ad hoc. Different systems are providing the care, and then we try to kind of web it at the end, and it's not very well done, and the inefficiencies, I think, reduce the care that we receive in America. And we see that when you look at data about healthcare in America versus healthcare in other countries. There are things that are amazing about our healthcare, but there are things that are just incredibly dysfunctional about our healthcare. And those of us that run healthcare systems really, you see it every day, and you know we try to make it better every day. But it is difficult, and it involves many things that we do not have control over. So I love that you called that out and you saw that. So, how do I deal with the challenges and the ambiguity of it all? Fortunately, there are others who do the work with me. And so we can commiserate and talk about the challenges that we're having and, the things that we struggle with. That the privilege I think that we have that maybe other industries don't have is that, like, when things go well, which they do every single day, thousands of times, the interactions that have to happen for somebody to be well in the end is so much, and we deliver so many times that I don't know, that gives me a tremendous amount of joy. How many times we're able to make a difference in somebody's life every single day. um, you know uh, with within our system, a baby is born every hour. Like,
Oh
think
my
about it.
gosh.
A baby is born every hour. Like, how awesome is that? And we make it possible that a baby is born healthy, that a mom is healthy, that they leave together, that the best day of your life really is the best day of your life, every hour. And so, as complex as it is, there are great joys at the end. And so, I think that's what makes it a bit different than maybe any other business. And then, we're entering this moment of transformation in healthcare, and I think the next 10 years will change healthcare for America. Like, there's no way that the next 10 years, when we look back on, are going to be absolutely transformational, for the country, and it will be better.
Are you talking
And
like AI? Are you talking like, in what way is it going to be transformational? Because this is your world, it's not my world, that I don't know the answer.
well, um, I think we will transform because we have to transform. Like, it will force change. And
Hmm.
in healthcare, we're not quick movers, right? When you have a life at the end, you're not a quick mover. You're not gonna make a snappy decision. You're gonna make the safe decision every single time. But the safe decision doesn't necessarily get you, um, it doesn't get the level of change that you need, to to adapt a system that is built for a small number of people for, the entire population. And I think the baby boomers are the ones that are forcing us into change,
Mm,
because the baby boomers are all aging, 10,000 a day, 10,000 baby boomers in America a day are eligible to sign up for Medicare, which means they've, crossed over to 65 and above.
that's crazy. I did not know that fact.
And so you take that, and you know that your health declines as you age. So imagine the strain on the healthcare system every day as more and more people are joining a system that was not built for that.
Yeah.
So we are forcing ourselves into transformation, and AI will help. They say it will help.
I think it will. I mean, I follow it not crazy closely, but closely enough that I'm
Mhm.
really excited about some of the ways that it's going to impact your industry. So if you
Mhm.
were, I mean, you've got the privilege of so much knowledge that I'm sure you're imparting it onto your kids of like just kind of how to advocate for themselves as they go through life and they potentially seek healthcare, or even your friends. I'm sure you're the person that a lot of people call like, what do I do?
Mhm.
How do you recommend that people advocate for themselves without being kind of annoying? There's certain people I know that I'd want with me to be like, are you following that when the nurses transition, that this one communicated to that one, or that they wrote it on the board, or that, I've been in situations a couple times where I am like, I want to make sure that I'm paying attention without being annoying.
Okay, so I I had the privilege of getting admitted to the hospital. And you know, being in healthcare myself, you'd think I would have used the resource more, but in reality, I have not. I'm in the hospital for my children. And then, this past year, for an infection. I had a pretty severe infection and required admission and IV antibiotics. Okay, so this is what this is what I will tell you. I think it is very hard to advocate for yourself, and you forget that when you are healthy. But when you are ill, you just cannot multitask on the level that you need to with information that is as complex as the information you're receiving from your healthcare provider. So I think you should have somebody with you.
I
And
agree,
it may
100%.
not be, it may not be your significant other. It may not be somebody who's related to you. Pick the best person in your life that, communicates well with others, communicates well with you, and, has the interest and the time, because it does take time to navigate the healthcare system, and have it be one person, and take somebody with you. It's not a journey you should go on by yourself.
I completely agree with that. Um, yeah, I was using ChatGPT when I was in with my daughter. She had an infection and got admitted to the hospital over a weekend in the summer. And we could not figure out what the heck was going on. It was some sort of crazy infection. And I was just like, as the doctor's talking, I'm just like typing it into ChatGPT. I'm like, tell me the next question to ask. Tell me what I need to know. What are the potential? And I just kept saying worst case scenario, best case scenario. And it made me feel so smart. But I
Mhm.
was taking it very seriously because I mean, the healthcare providers are all good, but some were better than others. And you could just
Yeah.
tell the ones that were there because they're passionate and they're really genuinely others that are just like, I'm burnt out. I want to go home.
Mhm.
And I felt the need to kind of keep them on their game. And I was like, thank good. In my head, I felt like very valuable to the process, but I also felt annoying a little bit because I kept asking a lot of questions. Yeah, that's why I
You're
was
not
curious. I was like,
annoying. That's the way to
well,
go. Ask, no, ask the question. We love it. I always love it when people ask questions, because,
yeah.
when you do something every day, uh, not to mention our verbiage is very complex. I always try to,
Well, yeah, that's
yeah.
half of it. As I was like, you don't realize it's like working at Microsoft. Like you're using all these acronyms. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm totally comfortable saying I don't know what you're talking about. But then I also wanted to just take time to digest when the doctor left the room to read about it. And then when they came back, I could be really organized with my questions. And I felt better about it. So ChatGPT is coming through the AI. It's so
I
crazy.
am telling you, AI,
It's
the
the
some of the
best.
work that I've seen is so impressive, and it really reduces the burden on clinicians that
Oh,
are
it's
taking
so
care of
good.
patients. It's huge. $300 billion, I think, is the savings in healthcare anticipated with AI.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's awesome. That's so cool.
Insane. Yeah.
So for you in your career, aside from, I know you're currently doing this huge build out, the gigantic, what is it, the
Tower,
North
North
Tower, the
Tower.
North
Yes.
Tower.
So excited.
How I know that you're projected for fall 2027
Hmm.
potentially to get that handled. But what does, considering that goes well, I know you're doing a whole big overhaul, and that's a big part of your job right now. What does success look like for you in the next 5 years? If you look back and you're like, I crushed it. I feel good aside from my expectations of others.
Well, we'll have the North Tower built, which will be amazing. It will really change our ability to deliver healthcare for the Pacific Northwest. It, I think, the technology, the innovation, the ability for our clinicians to really work to the top of their level in a new tower is really going to be impressive to watch and see. And I'm so happy that we'll get to deliver that state of the art healthcare to Seattle because we deserve
Yeah.
it.
So are
We
we.
deserve
We're
it.
so excited. We love Swedish, so we can't wait.
Okay, so obviously winning on the tower, getting the tower completed, up and running. I think also getting our finances to really making a comfortable margin so that we're able to reinvest. Healthcare is nonprofit, so the profit that we make is reinvested in the organization, and it allows us to deliver even better care. So that, and then really building a network along the Puget Sound. So we have Prov Swedish, which is our network, and kind of solidifying that. Great,
Goes with
taking great,
Providence. Yeah.
yeah, really delivering great care for patients up and down the Puget Sound is our goal, where it's really seamless. You enter the network, and the network will manage you and give you the best care and optimal health.
Yeah. Well, you're doing it. And what about for you personally in the next 5 years?
I think that so I'm a year and a half into my role, if you include the interim period. I think the next 5 years will, you know, uh, get me to a place where my team, who is completely amazing, is, able to function and manage without me. Uh, I think that you've achieved success as a CEO when you can step out of the picture and it runs seamlessly. And so my hope is that I can get the organization to the point where it is able to function independent of me. And then, I want to integrate a little bit more into our community, do more for the community, participate more in maybe some of the legislative decisions that we're making around healthcare for Washington State and
I
nationally.
started thinking that as you were talking, I was like, can you like somehow get involved? Because you have such wisdom. And I'm like, can't you wave your magic wand and be like, this is how it needs to go down? And I'll be like,
Yeah.
what she said. We need
Yeah.
that. I know. Yeah, we need to make that happen somehow, big time. You're so brilliant, and we're so lucky to have you in this community, like beyond. And I'm lucky to have you as a friend. I'm curious, my final question, which I ask everybody,
Oh,
um, is what fuels you? I'm kind of guessing I know the answer because you're consistent and congruent in the way that you live and speak, but
what fuels me? I would say ultimately, I think what I am looking for is a purposeful life. Is I want to know that I have done something to improve kind of the human experience in some way. And I think that's what
yeah.
I really appreciate about, the work that I do, is that I get to see that every day. But when I get to the end of my life, I want to know that I've made other people's lives better.
Well, you've already done that. It's like so impressive. I could spend the next many hours with you, but I want to be mindful of your time. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share more about you. And if there's anything that we as a community can do for you, like put it out there. We will do anything to support you because we need more Dr. Elizabeth Wacos.
Oh, Shauna, you are way too generous with your praise. It has been a pleasure talking to you, and this has been fun. The funnest part of my day.
Thank you for listening to the What Fuels You podcast. If you'd like to check out past episodes to hear from more business leaders, go to fueltalent.com/podcast. And if you have a minute, please leave a review and rating on your favorite podcast app, or share this episode with a friend or colleague. Please share any feedback or interview suggestions for other guests by sending a message to podcast@fueltalent.com. I'm Shauna Swerland, and thanks again for listening.